up there. Because I have a bad habit of not recording the top of my head. But yeah, like, I know it's tough for us because English communicates syntax by a word order, and so like, to go to a language where it just doesn't matter as much is just disorienting.
Yeah.
And so I get that.
I guess so the book, and you talked about, verb, subject, object. I guess when I'm translating, I'm not seeing that very much.
Yeah. Well, it's because you're also getting like, many of these sentences are being cherry picked from the New Testament.
Okay.
Because,
Okay.
yeah, like for example, you only know certain vocabulary words. So like, I don't want to find a sentence with a bunch of words you don't know. But there's a whole lot of other Greek out there that's going to have more complex syntax. And you'll get variation sometimes among the authors of the New Testament. You have influences from the fact that they probably all spoke Aramaic or Hebrew and things of that nature. You see a lot with the Septuagint and its translation Greek and so on. So it's complicated.
All right.
You're too smart, dude. That's the problem.
No.
You're way too smart. You want to understand all the advanced concepts of Greek, but you must first learn the basic ones.
Yeah.
They had a little section on irregular masculine nouns. Do we need to learn that, like mathetes and prophetes?
You just need to know that it exists.
Just know that it exists.
Yeah, that it can happen. Because, like, for example, if you encounter a hybrid or what they call an irregular noun, right? I was taught to call them hybrid nouns. But if you find a hybrid noun like that one, and maybe you're reading a sentence and it's one you've never seen before, and you have like this masculine article, and you have what looks to be a feminine ending noun later in the sentence, it might be worth your time to pop open the dictionary and check. Yeah. So just to be aware that you don't have to memorize it because you technically already know the endings, right? You already know them. So you just need to be able to know that this is a thing that can happen. Mathetes and prophetes are really common. They're really common. Yeah. That's why we're learning it. Okay, so now for the event you've all been waiting for. The sentences. All right, who wants to take number one? Adam.
What Jesus was saying to them.
Okay. Talk to me about that Kai at the beginning. You translated that but, which is possible, but is that the most likely translation?
Probably and.
Probably and. Parse that verb for me, Adam. You smoked the translation. Let's see.
So that's first person.
First person?
It's first person.
On.
Oh wait, no, it's not there. Wait. My brain is full.
You translated it perfectly, so you really understood it.
Yeah, first person. First person plural.
First person plural?
Sorry. Plural. Singular.
Singular. Okay, we're correct on that. Now, is this a he,
When
she, it, I, or you translation here?
Well, it's definitely a he because Jesus is the subject.
So what person would that be?
He.
Right, but what, first, second, or third person?
Oh, sorry, third.
There we go.
I got
I knew it was in there. We just had to get it out.
Yeah.
We had to get
That was
it
a
out.
brain part.
What's the lexical form of that verb?
Lego.
Lego. Very good. Very good. All right, actually this is a great example. You have verb, indirect object, subject in this word order here. So, there you have it. Which of course in English, we're gonna turn that into good English and verb, subject, object. But, okay, who wants to take numero dos?
Is par a word we know?
I think you guys learned that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did?
Yep.
I don't know.
It can mean with. With, so it has that kind of connotation. It's a little stronger than like in.
Wait.
And feel free to use your textbooks. The point of this is not to be a super duper Greek sniper.
What's a toys?
Altois would be
Him?
to it would be 2 or 4 them.
Two of them.
Them, yeah, it was. So, I think you guys have only been given some definitions of the pronouns, haven't you? Yeah, this is a masculine dative plural from autos. Autos is just he or it, so this would be like, you know, a group of men, to or with them. Sorry.
And is that middle and para? They leave off the A?
Yeah, it's para, it's elided, so that's why there's a,
With apostrophe.
yeah.
Oh, that's why I didn't, okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. I probably should have caught the vowel being left off there, because you guys haven't learned quite about some of that stuff yet. I got these,
Well,
some
it didn't
of
help
these,
me anyway, I didn't know.
some of these sentences I got from another textbook, that's like kind of sort of similar to our own, but that author has covered a little bit different things, so I didn't quite adapt it as well
Does
as
it say
I
he
should.
was remaining with them?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yep.
Okay.
It's meno, imperfect, active, indicative, third person singular, and then you have with them. With them. Did you have questions there?
That's a tricky one.
I'm on 3.
Oh, you're on 3. Did you want to take 3, or you just?
I wanted to take 3, but I'm trying to figure out what that last word is. I mean, I'm looking at the dictionary, but
All right. Well, I'm gonna. Since you say you want to take 3 there, 3 is now yours.
I'm trying to figure out what the third word is there.
Way to volunteer.
Third word is a preposition. It's appa. Always takes a genitive case.
Yeah, but that didn't help me. I don't know what the definition is.
Away from. Let me make sure I haven't gotten ahead of your guys' vocabulary here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Hold, please.
Yeah, I think some of it, I don't.
Hold, please.
okay.
away from is number 7. Apple is number 7.
Chapter 7?
Yeah, chapter
Okay.
7.
Okay. Yeah, I got exactly 1 chapter ahead of you guys. Sorry about that, folks.
So is the.
So don't feel bad if you don't know words that you've never
No,
seen
okay.
before.
There's no stuff to translate.
I know what.
You're like, wait a minute, this ain't fair. Yep. This is what happens when John Paul is sick all week.
Jesus.
Okay, yes.
Is-
Appa is away.
And then what's that last one? I mean, I'm looking into E's, but like, I don't.
That was a good help.
Well, that last one there,
It's an augment.
Or.
is that an epsilon that begins the word, or is it an augment? And if it's an augment,
It's an augment.
then we're looking at a verb.
Yeah, it's an augment.
And so then what verb starts with this? Will the pen word? Paru, what stem is it? I've heard it mumbled a few times. In class. Paruamai, yes.
Yeah.
So then what are we looking at here?
I don't know what that word means.
Parumai, it means like come or go.
Come and go.
Yeah, come or go. But what's the parsing on it? Can you break down what this looks like at least, even if you don't have the meaning?
So, is that third person singular?
It is a third person singular. But what about the rest of it? What's its tense, mood, voice?
Tense is like, I mean, it's indicative, obviously.
That's our mood, so yeah, you're right, it is indicative.
Voice. What is voice again?
That's middle or passive or active.
You said it meant what?
And the meaning is I come or go, so it comes from the lexical form, you know, it's paruamai.
So is it active?
Not quite.
So passive. Or middle.
Middle. It is middle.
It's gotta be middle because of the omai.
Yeah.
In this
Oh,
case.
pareamai.
It's one of those middle only verbs. Yep. And then so what's our tense?
Tense. What is tense?
Tense would be, is it a present, is it an imperfect?
Imperfect.
Imperfect, okay, good. So we have an imperfect, middle indicative, third person singular from paruamai.
So whole as
Ha,
Iesus.
ha, Jesus.
Iesus.
Jesus.
To Heron. Hero.
Hieru.
And the Porio too.
Paruata.
The Peruata. Oh, that means Jesus.
Right.
Apple is away from, right? You said?
Yes, so away from, and then we've got
So Jesus away from, that's of, temple,
Yep. In this case, you don't need to do of. Appa will kind of supply a new meaning. So it'll be away from the temple in this case.
so Jesus away from the temple, and then, what does that word mean again? Like the
Come and
regular-
go.
Come and go?
It's an imperfect middle indicative, third person singular. So what was Jesus doing away from the temple?
So, Jesus came away from the temple.
Sure, that'll do. Jesus was going away or was coming away from the temple. Yep, good job. Good job.
Come and come can mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Context.
Yeah, it's all contextual. In this case, it'd be going away from the temple. But like if it said he was coming away from the temple to like, you know, the location
Yeah.
sites, you don't have the rest of the sentence. So it makes it a little more difficult. All right, good job, Eric. All right, who wants to tackle 4? See, this time, this is where we got into the ones that I found and didn't adapt from the textbook, because now I'm putting in all these other details. Sorry about that, guys. I feel bad. Don't hope nobody take that to heart. You can't possibly know things you haven't been taught. So that was a teacher mistake. See, this is what happens when you get the free Greek teacher, not the good Greek teacher.
We are not complaining.
Hey, you are a nice teacher.
I'll take that. I'll give myself a gold star. All right, who wants to take number 4? Somebody who has not gone yet. I will choose. Dennis, you laughed. It's you. Number 4 is you, Dennis.
Oh, I thought I did number 1. I
Okay.
thought I was off the hook now.
Oh, you did number 1, didn't you?
Yeah.
Never mind. Dennis is free.
Yeah, I was relaxing.
Yeah, you can chill. You are allowed to laugh because you went first. And then we've kind of had like a mixture of people tackling some other ones. So that leaves the 2 ladies in the class.
This one is like tricksy and false though, because the parsing is from like a different chapter.
It's true.
I'm glad Sue means you. That's super easy.
Yeah, Sue is just the nominative, you nominative. And so this one I had to supply a whole mess of them. It gets tough to find, like you guys are at the level where your Greek is starting to get enough to where like it's hard to find simple sentences for you in the New Testament. That's why a lot of teachers just make up sentences. And I ain't got that kind of time. So
I'm having a hard time deciding whether the epsilon is an augment or not.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly.
So is it, and you come to me? Or you
and you come to me. Yeah,
go
actually.
to me? Is it
Nola.
come or go?
Nola, you nailed it. You're coming to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the verb is the come, the
Erke.
that's it?
Yep.
You got it? And that is, do I have to parse it?
You do have to parse it, yeah.
Okay, alright.
You do have to parse it, Nola, I'm afraid, so.
But it's not any of the ones that we did this week, so let me go back to the last chapter. Because it is not,
I mean, that right there is half the battle on parsing. You
yeah,
now know it must be a present verb of some sort.
right.
And you know what it is, right? You knew it was erkomai, because you know they're coming, so. Oh my.
So it is a second present, a present,
Yes.
middle,
Yes.
second person,
Yes.
indicative.
Singular, second person.
Singular, second person,
Indicative from erkomai.
yeah.
Good job, Noel.
Thank goodness for a dictionary and,
But that's what the book is
but if
for,
I just
right?
know where to reference things, I can get it eventually.
Yes, that's exactly, and that's what you're really going to be able to do that by the end of this class. You don't have to have it all internalized. You'll get there as long as you keep at it. So. good
So
job.
do they actually need to sue there because of the erke? That's telling you it's a you.
Yes, it's emphatic.
Oh, is that why they stick it in there? Because the u's emphatic?
Yeah, you don't necessarily need it. So
I
like,
was gonna say, you don't need it.
that's right. That's why when Jesus says I am, ego, eimi, ego is the first person, just I, right? We know eimi, right?
Maybe is, yeah, I am.
Yeah, eimi would just be I am.
Yeah.
But he says ego, eimi.
So he's emphasizing.
He's emphasizing I am. That's why we could translate that in caps if we wanted to, when Jesus does that. So he is echoing the language of the Old Testament when God says I am. He's using that language. Jesus is.
So we
That's why the
spend-
Pharisees wanted to kill him,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
because he says, before Abraham was, ego, me. And they're like, get the rocks, boys, he's blaspheming. They knew exactly what he meant. He didn't question it. So,
So this would be like, and you
yeah,
come to
you are coming to me. This is from the passage where Jesus goes to John the Baptist to be baptized. And John the Baptist is like, and you're coming to me?
Hmm.
I should be baptized by you.
Yeah.
Right? John is surprised. And that doesn't make any sense to John. Right? Because he knows that Jesus is the Messiah and he's not. All right. Number 5, Ashley, you have dodged the bullets so far.
Okay, so it's un ha Jesus
Yes.
kai elegen autois.
Good job.
What is the first word?
Therefore.
Therefore. I was not gonna know that. So it's therefore Jesus and then the last is to them. So the verb is the stem is lego,
Good job.
which would be I speak or like I say.
Good.
And it would be imperfect indicative, third person singular,
Good. And what's our voice?
active.
Good.
So it would be, and therefore Jesus was saying to them.
Okay, that's a good translation. It is totally possible to take the kai there as an and bring it forward. I think probably it's more likely to translate the kai as an also or
Oh.
perhaps an even, but that's just one of those things where like that's more advanced. But I just wanted to kind of point that out. But that's a solid translation, Ash. Good job. Okay. Who wants to take 6?
I'll try it. Ha de Jesus. Ave Jesus. Apocrino itai autos.
Altois. You guys are all gonna know Altois by the end of the day. It's like in every sentence.
So our verb is apocrinitai.
Yep.
Intellectual form apocrinome.
Yep.
Nai.
Incredible. Good job.
This is present. I'm sorry, so, yeah. Present, and middle, indicative. Third person, singular. So it would be,
You said
You said-
present, middle, indicative, third person, singular, right? That's what I heard.
I think so. I think that's what I said. Tell me what the day between the,
That functions as like an and or a but.
okay.
I thought it was the.
That
Yeah. No?
the would be your ha,
Oh,
your article.
okay.
the beaten town.
And Jesus, what, or is saying to them? Is replying to them?
Replying. Yeah, and Jesus is replying to them, or Jesus replied to them. So there's an interesting little phenomenon here. You may notice this is from John's Gospel, right? Which means it's a historical narrative, right? We're being told about an event after the fact. But observe, this is a present tense verb.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a phenomenon in Greek called the historical present. In fact, when you start reading the Greek New Testament, just about all historical narrative will have numerous present tense verbs. It happens all the time. And there's kind of a question of why. Why not use the imperfect? Because they have the same aspect, right? They both have imperfective aspect, and they can communicate the same meaning. One is just clearly designated as a past tense, the imperfect. And I think the answer is, like, in the Koine period, there was just kind of a falling off of the imperfect, from what I recall. But there's also, some people think the intention, this is somewhat debated, but some people think the intention with the historic present is actually to really draw you into the story. to really bring to life the imperfective aspect there, and to really like to give a kind of like zeroed in view of what's going on in the story. And so like, you know, and Jesus is answering them. Like, you know, he's kind of an emphatic bringing you into the real-time action of the
So
story.
this is kind of like, imagine this event happening in the past. Jesus is saying to them.
Yeah, like imagine you're standing right there with them. They're trying to bring you into that deep
Okay.
perspective of the story.
Wow.
That's how I've heard that put. So it's just an interesting thing to point out. There's one of the things that I think is really cool. Like it's hard to kind of just do our translations just of sentences of the Greek New Testament. It's more challenging than making canned sentences. But one of the cool things is you stumble across a lot of like Greek literary
Right.
devices
Yeah.
that you wouldn't have otherwise. This sentence is a little long here, and so I had to kind of zoom out a bit. Number 7. So is that legible? I know some of the people with more tired eyes might struggle to see that.
Could you like enter it so it's on 2 lines?
I can see if I can do that. The problem we face is that this is in tablet mode. I might be able to do something else though. Hold on. Oh, please.
No, that's better.
Look, guys, I have all the skills, all the important skills. If I don't have them, they're not important.
Oh, they gave us that.
Are you good at Excel?
Am I good at Excel? I'm functional at Excel.
Okay.
I'm functional at Excel. Like I know how to put equations in there, and I can drag them to other cells. It's very impressive.
It's better than I can do. I just make charts and color code the boxes.
Okay.
All right, who wants lucky number 7?
I can try it.
All right, Jared, take it away.
So, Kai Kofoi.
Good. I am going to be a stickler on pronunciation from here on out.
Akuo Usin.
Akuusi.
Aka Usin. Kai. Kai Necroy. Igairontai.
Agarontai.
So even dead ones obey, listen. Even the deaf listen.
What do we think about that Kai? Even is a possible meaning for Kai, but it's not the most common.
And even also, or
And would probably be a good one here. So and
the deaf ones listen.
listen. Okay, I'm okay with that. We'll go with that for now.
Listen here to obey. I mean,
In the deaf here, right? I supplied the word the. We'll talk about that in a second. What was that?
I'd go to check.
Wow.
Well, the dead raise.
All right. Housing Grounds is out there doing things.
Oh, okay.
We thought we were gonna have to rough somebody up. It was
I
gonna
know.
be a real exciting Greek class.
Yes, same.
So akuo usin is the verb, right?
Yes, that's correct. It's coming from akuo, which I think you already probably figured out.
So it's third person plural.
Correct.
In
What's
the-
our tense?
And tense, what's tense again?
Tense would be, is it present or imperfect?
Present or imperfect?
Yeah.
Present.
Present, okay. And you said it was active, middle, passive?
Active.
Active. Third person singular, and the lexical form was?
Akuo.
Akuo. And what does it mean?
Here, listen to obey, or they
They, yeah.
listen, they hear, listen to, or obey.
Yep.
They are.
Yep. So the deaf are, or deaf,
So
deaf are hearing,
the
right?
de-
Deaf
the deaf
listening.
are hearing, and the dead are. I want to say it means raising, but could also mean like living. The dead are living. The deaf
Not quite.
are.
Let's parse this verb real quick there. We have tie. What are we looking at here? What's our lexical form? Let's start there.
Is it a gyro?
Gyro.
A gyro.
Yep, it is a gyro. And then what's our tense, voice, and mood?
It's active.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. It's active or passive.
Active or that's two different forms, isn't it?
Well, 'cause,
You're like, it's one of the forms we learned.
Could be middle, active, passive, it's something.
Maybe I can trick the teacher into telling you.
Yeah.
Not this time, sir. You have to figure this one out.
Okay, so I mean, in the context, I mean it's like raising up, but they're not.
So let's zero in on the voice here for a minute. Remember, what's our pattern for the present active indicative? O, ace, a, and etos. Do we see any of those endings here? We have ontai, don't we?
Yeah.
So omai, a, atai, ometha, esta, ontai, right? So we've got a. What's our voice?
Middle passive.
It was middle passive. Middle passive. Okay. And so what's our, so we've got a gyro, you're right about that. It's a present, you're right about that. Now we've got the fact that it's a middle or a passive. And so what's the number in person? Is it third person, first person, second person? Is it singular or plural?
Is it first person? Like cause
It'll be
tie.
omai.
Cause tie. Wait.
Ontai
On tie.
would be what? So remember, first person singular is omai. First person plural is ametha, right? This is.
Oh, I'm at that. I'm like lost. I thought this was like tie. No, that has an E in front of it. So that's what we've been discussing. I was looking all the way back at 2.6, where it was like A, and I.
Yeah, no, this is going to be your present. This is our present verbal paradigm. So I think this should be chapter 5, right? Should be chapter 5.
5.
Yep.
It's page 56. of the paragraph.
Yeah. Okay.
And no worries, this is why we're reviewing the older ones though. Because
a Lumontai, it's Lumontai. So it's, I mean, third plural, it's.
Third plural, that's right. And we already know that it's present, middle, passive. So we know it's a gyro, right? I rise. So now we have to ask ourselves, how do we translate it in this particular situation? We know our subject, right?
Yeah.
Necroi, dead ones. And so we know you got the first part, right? We have the deaf are hearing, or deaf ones are hearing.
The dead are risen.
The dead are risen, or the dead are being
raised.
raised. It's a passive in this case. It's a passive. But the dead are risen is theoretically possible, right? Because you kind of have like a middle source, but it seems more likely that it would just be a passive in this case. And in the context, it is. So bring the whole sentence together for me, Eric. How do you translate the whole thing?
So, the deaf ones listen, the dead are being raised.
There you go. There you go. Good job. Good job. Absolutely right. Yep, and in the case of like, you might say, well, but there's no article there, right? There's no article before necroi, and there's no article before kophoi. So why say the dead, right? Why say the deaf? The answer is, remember, we talked a little bit about this when we studied the definite article the first time in Greek. The Greek article does not map over one-to-one with the English word the. It sometimes can perform that function. But when you're bringing out the sentence into English, right, and deaf ones are hearing, well, it's not just talking about random deaf ones throughout the world, right? It's more specific than that. The deaf are hearing, right? As in the ones whom Jesus has restored their hearing to, right? And you have kai necroi, agerontai, and the dead are being raised. And so there is a kind of you could say it's almost like general and specific at the same time, in a sense where smoothing it over into clean English requires a definite article there. And so sometimes we will make translational decisions. This is actually one of the definite article is probably the great menace of textual criticism. Like when people look at manuscripts of the Greek New Testament that differ in certain places, 99, it feels to me anecdotally, like 99 times out of 100, there was not or there was an article here, and a scribe felt the need to change that. And it didn't change the meaning, it just was like one of those, they just didn't know, so they put an article in. Okay, 2 more to go. Numero ocho.
It looks easy.
Famous last words. All right, Dennis, go for it. If it looks easy, you have to take it.
That's why it's like, I think I'm gonna take that one. I think I got that one.
He's been biding his time. He's been waiting.
All right, Suxon, para, anthropon,
Anthropon?
anthro,
Pum.
pom, u, lambano.
All right.
All right, so you get the glory from man, not I receive. So I receive not glory from man.
Sure, you can probably smooth it out and say, I do not receive glory
I
from
do
you.
not receive.
You can smooth that out in better English. Yeah, good job. Good job. Lambano, can you parse that for me?
That's a first person, present, singular, lambano is lambano.
And what is our, what's our voice and mood?
Present indicative, what am I missing? Indicative.
Is it middle active or passive?
Active.
Active, there you go. Yep, from there, that is the lexical form, yeah, lambano is lambano. I realize we haven't had a chance to have just a straight present active indicative first person singular
Yeah.
verb in a while.
That's why I thought that one was easy, it's lambano, I know lambano.
Like, I know this word, there's no funny business with this one. All right, the last one, who wants to take? All right, Adam.
Okay, see, Kai, Poloi, Tone, Corinthion,
Corinthians.
Akuantes, Pesteon, Kai, Baptizonto.
Yep. I'll give one just point of clarification. Where you see akuantes,
Yes.
hearing, we can just say we're hearing. Just smooth that out for you guys. Give you that in advance.
Okay, so. okay,
That's a
so
participle, you don't know what it means yet, so I'm just gonna tell you what its temporal aspect.
Okay. Okay, so he said, okay, so yeah, we were hearing,
Or just we're hearing,
We're
akuantes,
hearing.
we're hearing.
okay, and then I'm just doing. So that would be. So obviously that's plural, so it's not like Corinthians. So it would be plural, it would be third person, they are having faith, they are believing.
Well, they are, is it, what's our tense? Actually, just go ahead and just parse it, list you on,
Yeah, so
and
that's
baptism.
imperfect. Imperfect, indicative, plural,
What's our person?
third.
Third. And what's the verb? What's the verbal root?
Plural root is pisteo,
Stuo.
pisteo,
Yep.
and that is, I have faith, I believe, I trust.
Okay, and so then how do we translate this particular verb?
So they believed.
Remember, it's imperfect. They were believing. There we go. They were believing. Okay, and then what about our next verb? This one's familiar, right? We've seen
Yeah.
baptizonta, haven't we today? We should be ready for this bad boy.
Yeah, so that is, they were being baptized.
You're being baptized. Okay, so let's smooth out that full sentence there for me, Adam.
So, and many of the Corinthians, were hearing
They were believing and were baptized?
and were being
And
baptized.
were being baptized.
Being baptized. Yeah, so actually, good translation, by the way, good job. So Dana asked me a very thoughtful question, and I actually want to take a moment to address it. We were talking about uses of the imperfect, right? We saw this, and we have what's called, like our inceptive.
Oh, yes.
There's iterative. I'm pretty sure I spelled iterative wrong. Pretty sure it's spelled with an I. And actually, I don't know. Somebody spelled iterative for me because
I think it has.
it's an A.
I think
it
it's
is.
an A.
Okay, so I spelled it right the first time.
Yeah, it's an A.
Oh, guys, this is a Greek class, not an English class, so that doesn't matter. Then we have progressive uses here. And what's interesting, right, is this is historical narrative in this sentence. We have Acts 18:8, right? We're probably dealing with Paul's missionary journeys. And many of the Corinthians, hearing, so this is a participle, you don't need to worry about that right now, hearing, they were believing and being baptized. Well, is this, I don't have the passage open, but this is a good test case of like, is this talking about a specific point in time? Like Paul is standing out there and many of them were being baptized and they were believing. And it's just talking about like kind of progressive in action in that story. Or could it be inceptive? Could it be, and they were beginning to believe and beginning to be baptized? Is it maybe in that historical moment talking about kind of the beginning of his tenure and stay in Corinth, right? Is it potentially like, oh, this is the inauguration of a process that would keep going? Or is it iterative? Is it talking about just generally characterizing his time in Corinth? And many of the Corinthians, after hearing, they were believing and being baptized, as if to say this is just kind of an ongoing periodic event during his stay there. So an iterative usage of something would be like, JP was in the habit of drinking coffee and scooters. Well, it didn't mean that like, that doesn't mean that I was there at Scooters actively drinking coffee at the time of the story, so much as it meant that me as a person, I was in the habit of going and frequenting that institution, right? And that's kind of what an iterative gets at. Whereas progressive would be, JP was drinking coffee and ... Ashley came and sat down at the booth, right? That would be more of your progressive, I'm in the process of drinking it. Or if it was inceptive, as JP began to sit down and drink his coffee, Ashley came in and sat down, right? That's kind of the beginning of that thing. So in this case, I actually think we have a very clear example of the progressive, just because we have this participle akuon test. They were hearing and then they were being baptized. So after they heard, then these things happened. But I thought it was an interesting test case because all three of these are possible based on this tiny little sliver of sentence we have. And I wanted to showcase the difference, right? And so I don't know if that helped answer your question a little more, Dan, from what you had, or if you have more, we can absolutely tackle that. But this seems like a great place to stop and look at that.
So it's kind of just determined by context.
Absolutely.
So it's not really anything like memorize per se. It'll just come
It's-
out in the context of the passage.
Yeah, you need to
Okay.
be aware that the imperfect can be used those ways.
Okay.
But then you kind of ask yourself, sometimes you'll roll along with the classic past tense progressive, and it'll just make perfect sense. And then occasionally you'll just kind of stumble over something you'd be like, well, that doesn't quite make sense. But most of the time the context will force you to that conclusion. And sometimes the nature of the verb will. So like certain actions, right? You'll just have like a verb will just describe a certain kind of action, like that just kind of pushes you towards a specific aspect or pushes you towards a specific, like standing is a great example. The word to stand in Greek almost always occurs as a perfect, because once you've stood up, you're standing. And
So-
sitting is the same way. You sat down and guess what? Now you're sitting. And so some words just push you in that direction.
So I guess these three cases are.
They're not cases, just different meanings. Yeah.
I guess they happen in English too, but we just don't
Think about it.
think about it. And I think that's probably the same in Greek.
Yeah, absolutely. The
When
Greeks
we
are
think
good
about
ones.
it's different, progressive, inceptive, or iterative,
Yeah.
we just read it and go, oh, okay,
In this case, because we are not native Greek speakers, we will have to think about it.
sure.
But the Greeks, Luke in Acts didn't feel any obligation to explain, this is an iterative or this is progressive. They just know, right? They spoke Greek. And they knew the verbs and they had it all internalized, When we talk about like the nature of what the verb is, there's a fancy, you ready for some fancy terms here? You do not need to know this, by the way. This is purely gratuitous. But this is a German word, Aktionsart. Whew, sounds like a disease. Actionsart just really describes the kind of action that a verb has. This is controversial. Sometimes people say Actionsart means something else, but you guys you don't need to worry about that. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. You just know that Actionsart's a fancy way of describing what kind of action does the verb entail. Like if the standing, sitting example, or the drinking coffee, right? And if you're just thinking in the category of like trying to understand something, it can be very beneficial just to do the obvious thing and be like, well, what kind of action is this verb telling me is taking place? Before I even get to the parsing, just I looked at the lexical form, what kind of actions does this verb describe? Sometimes that can be a very helpful first step, and it's very simple. You just go to you find the lexical form, you go to the dictionary, and you just think about it for a minute logically. Just imagine the scene in your mind, right? Okay. So I don't know if that helps at all, Dan.
It does. Of course, when I came across it, I said, well, where is this?
How dare they change this on me?
Where is it parsed out? And it's all parsed out in the same
Yep. Sometimes you will get,
parsing.
there's a difference between, I guess we can get a little dorky here. There's a difference between morphology and semantics. So this is a distinction in language. Morphology refers to the form of a word. So when you memorize a paradigm, what you're memorizing is morphology. That's what you're doing. I think of the word morph, right? Or kind of morphe in Greek is form. So, luo, that's morphologically a present active indicative third person or first person singular. Semantics refers to the usage and the meaning. And so one morphological form can have multiple uses semantically. And so you're learning all the forms because that's the hardest part with memorizing all of this stuff. The semantics, you might think, wait, all these things I'm learning can be used multiple ways. How will I ever get it? Don't sweat it. You'll pick it up as you go. You will pick it up as you go. And when we're done with this, we'll do a whole thing on syntax and semantics and stuff like that, where you'll be done with all the forms. You don't have to memorize anything except vocabulary. And that'll be like a if you want to, which you should. But I'm not gonna show up to your house and be like, did you do your honky today? But understanding that difference between morphology and semantics, we are primarily in the basic grammar dimension. We're really focusing on this pretty heavily, with like a little tiny bit of semantics. You're getting just enough semantics and syntax to understand the meaning of Greek, so that you can basically think about it this way. You're trying to get some handholds in the rocks so that you don't fall off the rock face, right? We're not worrying about what's up farther. We're not worried about the slippery, difficult sections. We're just trying to get you on the rock walls so you have something to grab onto. So you're going to encounter more material in this textbook than you're probably capable of retaining. And that's okay. Like, I think Nola said something that was very helpful, I think. It's like, as long as I know where to find it and reference it, I'll be okay. Yes. That is one of the handholds on the rock face you need to hold on to, of like, getting the paradigms internal is really important just from like a smoothness of reading Greek perspective. So you don't have to constantly go back and check it. You'll get through the Greek New Testament 80,000 times faster if you can do that. However, when it comes to like to remembering finer points of grammar or the specific meanings of words, when you're actually translating, you'll have dictionaries, you'll have your grammar available, and that's okay. In fact, Dr. Plummer has, for both of his textbooks, for beginning with New Testament Greek and going deeper with New Testament Greek, he has laminated charts that contain all the paradigm information and all the most common uses of terms semantically. It's like a little foldable laminated chart. He let us have those on exams. Now,
How good is our
I'd rather have
free
that.
teacher?
I'd rather have that.
the
Can we
only
make those instead of donuts?
the only thing I would encourage the acquisition of the charts that correspond to this textbook. The problem is, my exams are going to be designed to determine if you know the paradigms. And if you have a cheat sheet with all the paradigms on it, yeah, it's like so. Your Greek cheat. Now Plummer didn't let us have this laminated chart on the exam. So when it came to Greek 2, we got the ones with all the syntax and stuff. Because we still had to be smart cookies and know when to use the right category. So, unfortunately, I cannot be as compassionate as I would like to be.
When we're done, do we get the chart?
Yeah, you can buy the chart and use it whenever you want.
Just not on the exam.
Just not on the exam. You can use it on your homework, whatever. It's like $10 on Amazon. I think I linked to it time immemorial in the disc. But if you go to Amazon, beginning with New Testament Greek, you'll see the textbook, and like the very next thing you'll probably see is the flashcards, and then you'll see the chart. You can even, if you're really feeling saucy, you could type beginning with New Testament Greek space chart, and it will pull right up. So, highly recommended. I used to use my laminated Greek 2 chart for like years after the fact. Then I started reading Greek grammars for fun because I was sicko, and then I didn't need it anymore. So, okay, real quick, we're basically done for the day. But let's talk a little bit about our next chapter, which I'm going to steal my wife's textbook so that I don't have to make up anything about the next chapter. I can actually tell you. We're dealing with what's called contract verbs. And these are, contrary to what it sounds like, these are not verbs that have entered into legal agreements with other verbs. These are verbs where you have a vowel change that can kind of occur because the end of the stem actually contains a vowel. And so what you have, of course, is at the end of these, you remember you have typically like a connecting vowel that bridges between the ending of the verbal paradigm and the stem. Well, sometimes you get contraction when you have stems that end in a vowel, where you have the vowel contracting with the connecting vowel, and thus you get something different altogether. And that is what you're going to see in this chapter. It's going to actually.
So there's 5 million charts in that chapter. I was looking at it. How much do we have to memorize?
Well, you have to memorize all of them. Everyone else, I haven't decided yet.
Yes, there are.
So what you're seeing in this chapter, right, you have, and this is a pattern, it's actually a good question. So the thing that you do not need to worry about, you'll notice you have essentially an alternate paradigm for all the paradigms you've already learned with the verbs, right? And what they're really showing you is exemplars of what happens with certain vowels in the existing paradigms that you already know. And you do not, emphatically, I repeat, you do not need to memorize all of those.
Okay.
For one, you will be crushed by the agony of despair if you try to. And second, it won't do you much good because there are going to be you're going to encounter verbs that are contract verbs that you don't know yet. And so knowing these paradigms won't save you from those. So what you really need to know is there are some rules that Dr. Plummer provides that are on page 73. And then obviously Plummer's video will tell you more of what you want to memorize. Let me go ahead and I will pull up the quiz here and see you guys are gonna get potentially a sneak peek of the quiz. I know you won't remember all of it, so.
Take a picture with your phones.
Scroll by that. And so you do not have to produce any of those paradigms or
Okay.
any of the rules on there, but you will need to be able to parse verbs that are contract verbs. So you'll need to know how to do it and correctly identify their lexical form. But I strongly encourage, there is a set of rules on page 73, 5 rules, and there's another set that looks at contract vowels with diphthongs there. I strongly encourage you to memorize those rules and to make sure that you understand how these vowel contractions interact, because this pattern of vowel contraction is not limited to contract verbs. You will want to know. I assure you. You will see it again. You'll see it for the rest of your life in Greek, so you're going to want to know. But no, you don't need to memorize those other forms. And so you get some other things that are interesting here. You get all those prepositions that are going to be I just got 1 week ahead of myself on. Sorry about that again, guys. That is not your fault. That is my fault. Bad teacher. But really, I don't think there's much else going on in this chapter. So the upshot for you is you don't have to learn any new paradigms. You don't have to learn any new verbs. You just get to learn how they behave. So it'll give you a chance to kind of practice a little bit more with what we have learned. And again, as always, feel free to reach out during the week. That's what Discord is for. If you have some kind of a problem or whatever, you know what to do. And then remember, so this coming week, we're doing chapter 7. After that, chapter 8. After that, midterm 1. Midterm 1.
Are we gonna do a week of review or no?
You'll have the opportunity to study that whole week. So I'll give you an extra week. So we'll finish chapter 8 and then after that. So instead of doing 9 immediately after, we'll prepare for the midterm. Okay. That way you have a chance to go back and review the first 8 chapters, because you will be expected to produce at least one noun paradigm. You'll be expected to produce at least one verb paradigm. You'll be expected to produce a ton of vocabulary.
Great.
So prepare thee thyself. And if I am feeling steadfast and if I'm a good Greek teacher, a good free Greek teacher, I may make a study guide video. I may not, depends on how I'm feeling. But depends on how good I'm feeling. But I do want platinum stars. I know Nola gives those.
Platinum stars with diamonds.
With diamonds. I do want one of those. So Marty, you are all dismissed.
Do we have to learn AB or not? The imperfect indicative of AB?